Buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone sends my way. From the heart, gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype to the video so that the message can reach a little bit further. Thank you. Well, getting right into what I want to talk about today. Today I want to go in basically on the stages of Billy's, right? How some are good, some they have that chip on their shoulder. So this one's going to circle around Frank B. Before all that played out, before I even met him in Palm Hall and all that. And about a camarada, or camarada, should I say better, from Pomona 12th Street, Los Sharkies, right? And I want to take you back to Ironwood. And Ironwood, I have touched on one individual, right? Which is that one cat, Negro, from 12th Street. You know, I done told you guys he provoked the riot on the yard, and basically since this time, it was 2000 or 2001, somewhere there, he was through, right? Just because he thought he was a rapper, and he decided to put 187 crit, and crit felt offended. You could say that, right? But it wasn't because of that. It was mostly because of his behavior, right? But again, I put that out there already. It's there if you're interested to hear it out. But nevertheless, it's gonna tiptoe around that, right? First and foremost, I want to take you with two camaradas, Mosquito from 12th Street and Wimpy from 12th Street. You know, both these individuals, they weren't doing like, you know, acá y allá or a lot, right? But they were still doing things for Frank, for Frank B. And nevertheless, when I first found out, like I stated before, as long as things were dealt correctly, there was no jealousy or no type of how do I say it, resentment on another homie doing his thing for his señor on the yard, right? Keep in mind, this is a llavero time. It wasn't a mesa system yet. But there was many, many camaradas doing their thing. They paid their respects to T, and that's all I care about. Other than that, they were handling their stuff with their respectful señor, right? And again, these two individuals, they were staying in touch with Frank. And, Frank, from the gate, for example, other camaradas came and they asked with respect. They allowed me to go through T, him approve it. And after that, we fixed the details in the yard, right, amongst ourselves. And it was trusted on us, basically me, to hold him to whatever came in. They showed respect to him, right, to Terco, and then work it out with their señor. Guys, get it? It's like your business, don't involve me in it. I got no responsibilities, and we're straight, right? At the end of the day, we're camaradas. We're to uplift everyone, and I never played into that greedy, no, I'm the only one on the yard and you can't do it. Nah. And I can sincerely say, T, never, at least never never acted like that. When I addressed him getting his issue, and at the same time they were going to show love to one of his brothers. I seen it later down the line with Artie, but at least at this time it wasn't like that, right? And anyways, with Frank B, it wasn't even like that. If it weren't have been for us three sitting down right there in the handballs and discussing things, a war would have gotten up. Because Frank B was Frank B, and he wanted them basically to do his stuff. And again, it wasn't much, right? Not to minimize the camaradas, but it wasn't like, you know, to cause a war amongst homies, right? And when they told him, hey, we're going to talk with T's representative here, whatever, however they want about it, he said, you don't need to tell. He ever says anything, just tell him I said so. He still had them old school mentality, I guess, right? If you want to call it that. But anyways, the point is, Wimpy was a cool individual, clown, you know. Mosquito, Mosquito was more serious, right? And but we talked it out, we worked it out, and we told him just follow along, homie. Do your thing, and we'll do it like that, right? And avoid problems. That's it. Well, the time they were there, Frank B wasn't stepping on toes, but he was sending them on a lot of missions, and he wanted to do it without him addressing T, or in this case, the buffer zone me, right? And there was a lot of homies from Pomona there, a lot from all different barrios, and Frank B, from one reason to another, he was mad at them or something, and he wanted homeboys to move on them or have someone move on them. And I put a stop to a lot. Basically, when something came up, the homies gave me my respect to verify, like, hey, is this true? Is it a go? Or and to get dealt with, right? And if it needed to get dealt with, of course, I wasn't going to be that dope in the road for them to take care of what needed to be taken care of for the senor, right? But at the same time, for those who've been or were under Frank Bean, you guys should know he was. I don't want to call him out his name, right? He was just a tecato with a mentality of being a veterano of it and whatever, right? Whatever he thought for him thinking and being the way he was, right? And he basically, it came to one point where I guess they had their own rules and regulations. Yeah, it was a trip, right? Mosquito one time showed me these rules and regulations that supposedly were put out for mainly Pomona, right? But it was like, nah, homie, this is too much right here. So when things like this happen, if you want to follow suit, do so, but don't bring it up to me, because if I bring this up to Terco, then there's going to be an issue. And the reason why I do things the way I do, and I request for permission for homies to do their thing, for one, is for unity, and two, is to keep it respectful. But this is out of bounds. So you could tell them, Simone, you're gonna do that and ignore it. Whatever you do is your business. But if I find out, you know, Terco rules ain't being applied to the dot and you're following another Pili's reglas on this jardín, not to minimize the señor, but this ain't his jardín, then, we're gonna bump heads. And, everyone that knew me, they knew, when business had to be taken care of on the spot, right? Let's boogie. But if it was from a long way seen as just an individual being greedy and stubborn, right? There was no need for it. It could be avoided. It's when camaradas had palabra. We were still doing what Pili said, but at the end of the day, we had palabra on the yard. Because all that mattered was that things ended up getting to the point where the Pili wanted them, but we had the sense of responsibility and respect to wiggle them to according to what we thought was good. Of course, that's out the window now, right? But you could say Frank B. Well, he was this era's Peelies, right? Which we're seeing right now. But we're talking about back in the days when you could say things were different. But anyways, as I stated before, the riot happened. The homie used to. It was a weenie, straight up. You know, and I know certain individual on YouTube was all up on this, but I was with him in Preston, believe me, and here in Ironwood he was all he did was bang on the freezers and rap blood this, blood that, and with a bunch of cribs. And I mentioned it to him a few times. And one time I remember a bison in a crib, they got in an argument, and he was encouraging the bison to go in the back and get down one on one with them. And I told him, what's wrong with you, fool? This ain't going down. I looked at Green Eyes, the crib. I told him, man, Green Eyes, with all the respect, this ain't going down. And I told the homie there on the spot, if this ever happens, you got something coming, fool. You know, we can't do this. And it's not because people can't hold their ground. It's just, it's not allowed, period. So, anyways, out of the blues, he just decided to tag, right here in his elbow, but on kind of his forearm, 187 crit, and again, he liked that attention, you know. He literally rapped, and even though the Chris felt disrespect, they had never said nothing. And when they seen that, they flexed up. I remember me and the homie Casper from Aslan, we were walking in Central Kitchen, and they played it to their advantage, Negro was walking, and again, we didn't see eye to eye. But at the end of the day, it's a homie, and we can't allow other races to put hands on a homie, even though he's in the wrong. As I'm sure they wouldn't allow us to put hands on one of their people without, going through the proper channels. And anyways, as we're in by the scullery machine towards the side of the bakery, they took off on him. They start going off on him, right? I remember they hit the alarm and we start creeping because we couldn't see. And we're squatted down. And I remember there's a crib, right? No, I'm lying. Excuse me. He saw blood. That's why he didn't get involved. He was literally squatted all the way down, like about 10 feet, 15 feet from us. And when we seen the Judas were right there, taking them apart and all, because the officers, whatever officers, whatever were there, so it didn't even last that long like that, right? When we seen it was a homie and everything, we jumped up and we took flight on the sangre, right? And anyways, the point is the blood ran, so we tried to keep it cool because our objective was to go back to the yard, right? Because again, I know it sounds wrong, but it's for like that in every race. Every race is like so. If another race puts hands on my people, I'm sorry. It's on with everybody from that side, affiliated or not. It's the same with us, If something happens with a black, white, other, they their people get touched, they're gonna boogie. Oh, believe me, especially the black brothers in there, they're gonna buck up on every one of us. So, anyways, this was like I told you, we went out to yard, and as I'm going out to yard, I was with Chato, as I said, from Little Valley since YA. So when he seen us come out handcuffed from Central Kitchen, he basically yelled at me, right? Chino, que show. And I just told him, hey, sobre ellos, todos. And even though they had him separated, I don't know what happened, right? Who'd have slept that day or something. But they locked everybody up. Everybody went in for their peace, right? And all of a sudden, a little bit later, they called yard. So we were all like, what? And it was one of them things, right? That, you know, we weren't expecting it. I don't know why they called the yard, Again, the homie was a homie. They might have thought it was amongst them because of the tattoo. I don't know, you know. But the point of the story is, in this time, you know, we came out and everyone, everyone, sorry to say it, but the only block that didn't make it outside was us. 3 block, because it was the messed up block, you could say, right? But the Judas, they had a feeling because they started, some Judas, there was a bunch of COs that day on the yard. Some started on 1 block, and then the other Judas started on 4 block, because 5 block is a whole. So they released, and right when they released 2 block, the yard went off. We were already outside though, ready to go outside, and when we seen that happen, we just ran on their side, and it was go time. You know. Again, I'm not gonna glorify on what happened, but the point of the story is, later on, I started getting on my appeals, right, from Wimpy and from other homies. Basically, what happened was on the way pile. Mosquito, he rushed in on their way pile, on the brothers' way piles, right, and well, he was a wave of homies that did it, but the tower's right above, literally right above, and he hit him in the head with a block gun. He knocked him out, and the brothers did what they were supposed to. They stomped on the homie, right? All the homies were telling me they and couldn't get penetrate and couldn't get him off him, right? Of course, they were gonna do their thing, and when Casper seen this, because it was this time it was so crowded, they opened up the gym, even though they were level 3. Casper from Aslan, he was a good homie, real good. You know, I'm pleased to say, I met his deal after so long, and it's a pleasure. He was a good dude in a lot of ways, but he made the gym rock, you know. And anyways, the point of the story is when Frank B found out of everything. Now I don't know why Wimpy would tell him everything, and Frank B was to show off. He liked to show off in front of other Beelies, in front of other people, his power, in front of homies. Told you guys what he told me later down the line, Me and a bunch of homies, one, two, three, four, scrap. You know that word. And one norteño, you vatos can't do nothing about it. Challenging us. But anyways, Wimpy went through who he went through to get to him. And Frank P did what Frank P did. All of a sudden, he knew the chain of command, right? He knew who to get at. He got a Terco, and Terco got at me, to have Wimpy removed. Hard Candy was a favor for Frank B, and it was because he was supposed to do something and he didn't do it. Well, I guess that riot messed up. Negro messed it up for his own homeboys from 12th Street because they were supposed to hit that weekend. And that's all Frank B cared about. And since Mosquito was gone, literally, and basically Wimpy was like, we have to reorganize ourselves. The angle is just not here. They took him off the yard and all them type of things. Frank B, Frank B didn't put up with that. But my thing is, why didn't he wanted to apply Pomona with these rules and regulations? Why didn't he address it straight to the homie from Pomona and have them come and ask, right? Nah, he went through Terco to make it a must. You see the political move there? Needless to say, I'll be honest with you guys. I felt it wasn't right. The homie was there. I heard from many homies. He was there trying to take the brothers of Mosquito, but they had a wall. There was some stomping on the homie, and then they had a wall not allowing homies to penetrate. There was nothing he could do. So yeah, two homies got put on Wimpy. They you know, I told him it ain't hard candy. He can't program with us no more, but just hit him. But don't go for neck or torso, Just allow him to understand the message and get on. Again, I was that individual with no backbone, right? I had to do what I was told. It's the way we have to do things. But needless to say, the individual that spoke about Negro and was all up on us, I don't know how it worked. I guess he got out, he was still around 12th Street. He got forgiven by them. He was still allowed around them, but I guess later on he would end up being tweaked out his mind and cut death row, right? But on death row in the system, he had to go to that side, and he knew it. The point is that individual caused a lot of homies to get hurt, even his own homies from his own neighborhood. So again, I don't understand how that would work. But anyways, everyone, I just wanted to show you a small glimpse on how there is difference from pili to pili. The message is a message, and I don't glorify it, so you're not gonna hear me glorify it on a pili, right? Dispensa. But I would always be honest with you. There is good individuals. Unfortunately, that type of mentality and them ways are gonna always come out on top. For example, in this case, there was many pilis that had homies doing their things again, but the only one that was acting up, pressing that line because he was who he was in his mind, was Frank B. So again, we go back to what I always state. The end look, be careful. It's never wise to become a sobrino or to be under one individual pili. Rules and regulations, intel, we work as soldados for all pilis. We're to put ourselves in the position for all. Don't fall into the false politics. Better yet, don't put your full trust in something that there's so much of that you don't need nobody to tell you where it's going to lead you if you get involved fully. I mean, in me, it's not a woo ha ha. I'm here, spread the message. Also, spread the messages, proudly. I did what I had to do for the causa, but here I am dying alone, right? And was it my choice? Did I ever do anything wrong? No, for those that call me, I'm this and this and that, I have never dropped out, never spoke about things that have not been written up in one way or another, and never will. But for individuals to come on and be like, hey, you can't speak, can I only speak about my walk, my personal walk. And I think for everything, sweat, blood, heartache, sitting down time, I'm able to speak about my walk, right? So again, don't fall for that negative narrative on the many ways it comes out. With this said, I send my love and prayers. Stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones.
This is what we started. We always